Hello and welcome, my name is Hunter and today we are playing Stellaris. If you're new to the channel, I generally like to play strategy games or other games with a bit of a role-playing flair. I thought I would like Stellaris, my actual favorite Paradox game, to play more of a role on the channel than it has traditionally been allowed to, because I always have a difficult time with Stellaris. It's very difficult to make edited RP content with Stellaris simply because the RP in Stellaris can be very abstract, especially when you're trying to move through the game in the middle section. And it's a problem I sort of have with CK3 at times too, but it stands out more in Stellaris, and it causes a lot of my Stellaris series to simply fade away from being too difficult to maintain. If I want to put out more content, especially for games that I like to play that are hard to edit, I'm going to have some more unedited stuff. And I think the best solution to that is that we're going to play Stellaris more like a guided RP sort of playthrough from now on. There's not going to be any editing in it, or very little, and it's mostly going to just be about playing the game, trying to figure out what our people would do, and also trying to figure out how to play the game well and efficiently at the same time. Sort of in a tutorial sense, but I mean, not exactly. Mostly I'm just going to explain what I'm doing and why, and I'm going to try to keep the pace of the game relatively controlled. For this first new Stellaris recording, I thought, instead of creating my own empire, I might just play a preset one. Something where all the traits come from the base game, nothing comes from a DLC, and after going through them and figuring out the ones that fit that classification, I've decided we're going to play the Vor Technocracy. While the Vor Technocracy is a faction that came with the Humanoids DLC, that's only because of the ship set and the portrait. All of the traits the Vor have are from the base game. One of the things I've noticed about civs made by Paradox is that they really overvalue the leadership traits. Like a surprising large number of these has at least one of the two leadership traits in them. And I find that interesting because generally I don't think those traits are very good. Like from a meta standpoint. I'll take them for RP purposes, but from a meta standpoint they don't feel that good. The Vor Technocracy doubles down on that by taking both of them. That, I think, should be the heart of how we establish an RP for a pre-made faction. If we have anything that we're super focused on, it should be really important to our decision-making process. In this case, you can see we are very leader-oriented, right? We have two whole traits dedicated to leaders, so we're very leader-oriented. We're also very technology-oriented. Two of our traits are flat-out technology traits, our fanatic material ethic, and our technocracy civic, and our other civic environmentalism is nearly fully a technology-based trait. So we are very technology and leadership oriented. I like the Vor because they're really well designed. A lot of people like to start by playing the United Nations of Earth because they're straightforward. But I actually think the United Nations of Earth design is a little bit lacking. It's hard to see what it is you're really supposed to be doing with it. Like, Beacon of Liberty, sure, we're extreme egalitarian. That makes sense, I guess. We like to vote a lot. They like to vote a lot, right? And they like aliens well enough, more than the average, right? We have Idealistic Foundation, which is interesting, right? But it implies that they have a really strong governmental sense. But it's hard to look at it and say, this is what this should be. And I get that, because this faction is designed to be played by people who just want to play people and want to get any result out of it. It's not focused at all. And that's okay, because human factions don't usually have to have a focus, right? We all have an idea of what humans are and how humans act, and those ideas aren't always compatible, but they're something we can all express. The Commonwealth of Man, on the other hand, has a very focused concept, while still having the same pop, so the adaptive nomadic. They're xenophobes. Means they don't like outsiders. They're materialists, which means they conquer. They have the Distinguished Admiralty, which doubles down on their already strong materialists, so they're very militarist. They're very militarist. They fight a lot. And so when you look at the Commonwealth of Man, you get a better idea of what a directed RP-based human faction would look like, as opposed to the United Nations of Earth, which you can basically play however you want. They're not likely to be too evil, they're not likely to use slavery, but still, they're very open-ended. With the Vor, we have a very specific, very strong RP-based faction, right? The first thing is we're a dictatorship, and that sort of folds in with our leadership focus, meaning that we care a lot about the great men and women that lead our society. Not only have we formed a government that basically picks what we consider the very best of us and sits them on the top for their entire life, but we've also not denied our population the ability to pick a different leader after they're dead. There's a distinction between imperialism and dictatorship that's really important, right? Like, dictatorship in the context of Stellaris very much is once a person has proven they're the best for the rest of their life, but society does not relent the ability to re-choose after their death. And I think that's really interesting. I don't usually play dictatorships because from a power standpoint, I think the free leader that you get from being imperial is probably worth more than what dictatorship gives us. It only gives us some experience gain, which is good, and don't get me wrong, matches up very much with our leadership focus. Our leaders are going to be amazing. Well, our ruler is going to be amazing, and our other leaders are going to be great too. We are doing it's a prosperous unification, which means that it doesn't have a specific focus on its origin. Its origin is just RP, whatever you see in the traits. That's what we get from prosperous unification. There's no guidance in prosperous unification except these guys used to be not in space, and now they're in space, and they unified to do it. That's good though, because it leaves us a lot of interest. If we look at how Paradox presents them, I think my whole trait analysis thing matches up really well. We'll read the description here and the one once we start the game, just to get an idea of the intended RP of the Vor Technocracy. The Vor evolved during an extended interglacial period on their homeworld, Tiveron, which eventually began its cyclical transformation back into a lifeless globe of ice. The rapidly changing environment forced the Vor to adapt using technology and science. United under the draconian rule of a chief scientific officer, they sacrificed their individual freedoms and enhanced their bodies with rudimentary cybernetics to survive. Having conquered the planet that once threatened to freeze them out of existence, the Vor now have their sights set on the stars. So, what we're seeing is a group of people who are very aligned in their belief system and thus have submitted to strong authority in order to express that belief system as in a unified way across their society, and that belief system is more or less we can be saved by science. Each of these traits is well represented in this description too, which is I find really nice, and it's why I like the Vor as a first RP Stellaris pre-made faction like selection. That's why I picked them instead of making my own, because I think it's good to like roleplay sometimes with restraints created by others. And the thing I'm really seeing here is this adaptive trait is really neat, because it more or less is fit in to explain the whole light cybernetics and having to overcome the difficulty of their world's climate getting worse. They're not adaptive because they were naturally adaptive. That's a thing that they did to themselves to survive the freezing of their world. And I think that's interesting. It's a great way to fit that trait in. We are a technocracy, but we're also obsessed with climate and how the world changes. Fluctuations in the environment are very important to us because our world tried to kill us, and that has made us environmentalist. We appreciate nature and have a strong desire to preserve it, but also conquer it. I think that's really interesting. I see the Vor as preserving nature, but also not being against things like terraforming, because to them, the reason to preserve nature is for their own betterment. It's not for some kind of like ideological concept of pure nature. Rather, it is we need natural places and things to live and thrive, so we want to maintain and create those things, which means I see them as probably using terraforming to make most worlds the right temperature for them. We have technocracy, which basically is obvious from our background. We solved all of our problems with technology. We've overcome and unified through technology. That's also why we're fanatic materialist. I think it's really interesting, and I think we're gonna have a good time. We don't really like each other, and other people don't really like us, so we're not likely to like spend time seeking pleasure from other members of our own species, or having other species seek pleasure from us because we're repugnant. I think it's interesting that this trait's penalty implies that we don't like ourselves either, because it's entertainment jobs produced by ourselves against ourselves as well. And I think that means that they're likely very individualistic in spite of being unified under a single leader, but there's sort of like an individualism that comes from dictatorial government as well. Let's get started. Things I've changed: I'm playing on Admiral. We've dropped hyperlanes once just to create a few more choke points to 0.75. We randomized AI starts and fallen empires. I don't like randomizing the main empires. I like leaving them default, because the gameplay is very different if you randomize the main empires and you get a low swing or a high swing, and I just rather it be just like the average for the size we're doing, which is huge. Doing 2 spiral arms, although maybe we do 4 spiral arms. Kind of like 4. No, let's stay on 2. And we'll play. The only other thing I changed was I turned off Cthulhoids so that we don't have even more sources of our precious scientists being killed in space. And I turned the crisis up to ×3, just because, you know, it's relatively low difficulty, and we don't want to completely roll over the crisis if we get that far. Now, here is the second, more complex description of the Vor that we get at our startup screen. In the eons since the first primitive Vor communities took shape on the snowfields and ice caves of Hiveron, our civilization has spread and prospered. The birth of science and rational thought necessitated the removal of those political leaders who impeded technological progress through ignorance, superstition, sheer stupidity, or a combination of the three. Instead, a single qualified ruler from the scientific community would be chosen to guide our developing nation into the future. Now, after the discovery of the hyperdrive network, the finest minds of the Vor Technocracy have finished development of the first hyperdrives. The stars themselves are finally within our grasp. Time for us to master the stars with technology, isn't it? Yes. I really like the description of the Vor. I think it's really cool. So our leader is an authoritarian autocrat scientist. That makes a lot of sense. We're starting with a scientist as the leader, which I actually usually consider to be not that great. It's not my preferred choice because it limits the number of scientists that we can get early game. Because we're super tech and discovery based, we're going to probably take our first tradition as discovery. There are pluses and minuses to discovery first. The minus to discovery first is that some of its choices sort of wear off as the game goes on and you stop exploring. But the benefit of it is it gives you a lot of bonuses to sciences, and if you don't take it right away, it's really not worth taking at all. So there's that, and I think it fits well with us to start discovery. We'll talk about that more when we get to it, though. This is our starting system. It is a single star. Let's see what else we have here. Well, there's a molten world, so we might be able to do something with that later. 2 gas giants. Okay, the decent number of planets. That's cool. And let's look at our local area. First thing I notice is that we can see only one of... Oh, that's not even right. Are we a tundra or are we Arctic? I know for sure we're cold, but I really thought that we were Arctic. think we're Arctic. Yeah, so that's not even one of our starting worlds, so both of our starting worlds are still hidden. That gives us an idea of what we want to start our military ships doing. I mean, I always use them to explore, but we're going to look for planets. We're just going to pop them around here to see if we can find those worlds quickly, like so. This world will actually be useful to us someday, which is nice. Size 14 is fine, and it's nice to have a little bonus planet. Should be 60% for a cold world, plus 10% because we're adaptable, so this is actually probably going to be pretty useful to us relatively early on. I like to use my starting military ships to explore down the hyperspace lanes so that we can see where there are natural connections and find our choke points faster than our scanning ships can do it. Then we can have our science ships just scan. Now, once we found all the planets we think are nearby us and gone down the lanes a little bit, we will basically go further and further out in a search pattern just to see if we can find neighbors, and so we can uncover what's valuable and what isn't. And then our science ship will work on just clearing the systems that we need to create our choke points until all of our preferred choke points are captured. That should create like an internal space with unexplored stuff, and then we can focus all of our anomaly finding chance on those captured systems that are inside of our choke point area. We will try to build all of our science ships early. Because our leader is a scientist and we don't want to go over on leaders, we're going to be doing 3 science ships pretty quickly. 2 of them will explore, 1 of them will do anomalies, because I like to do my anomalies pretty early. The Vor don't really need to go too wide, so we're going to be using efficient exploration as much as we can. We need to change a few things on our home world. Because we are authoritarian, we start with precinct houses, and I don't really want them. So we're going to immediately we can disable or demolish this. It is going to have the same effect. I guess we'll demolish it. We want these extra guys here to demote themselves into civilians as quickly as possible so that we can make better use of them later. And then we're going to replace it with a monument, because we are not very strong in Unity, and we're going to have to do a lot of work to solve Unity. The Vor have no really good Unity civics, so that means that we're probably going to have to do traditional Unity, meaning a whole Unity specialized world at some point relatively early in the game, just so that we don't fall too far behind, since we have no way to produce it passively. Well, I mean, there's government, but it won't be enough. Our first 2 planets will most likely be an alloy world and a research world. Usually I prioritize the research world first. And we'll discuss how we build a research world, and how, like, as I go along, I'll discuss how I build them. Mostly the new version of Stellaris is like a mental balance between what you need to produce, how many planets you have, and how many civilians you have. If your civilians is very low, like lower than the number of jobs you produce, you're going to see imbalances in your outputs, because your civilians won't always fill the exact jobs you want them to. Sometimes if you build something new, they'll fill that job and take away something else that you need, and it can be very complex. So I think my basic way of looking at these worlds is I don't want to build buildings until there are civilians to cover them, because I want my buildings to immediately be active and useful as soon as they're built. So I won't be pre-building basically anything. Or I will pre-build, but only to a small degree, right? I no longer consider pre-building to be as valuable as I did previously. I used to like to pre-build a lot, and now I'm doing it almost none at all. And I think that's good. For a authoritarian, really for anybody other than egalitarian starts, we're going to be, of course, moving our civilians to our new colonies immediately with money, so that those colonies will be able to have a pop growth base. I usually move about 600, so that the planet starts at 700. Maybe 1,000 is better, but 600 seems to be working for me fine, so it's what I've been doing. And yeah, just making sure that we have civilians before we build jobs, and that we don't take our civilians down to nothing until the population on the planet can readily replace them, is pretty much what I like to do early game. I don't put off my first 2 planets very much. I do usually a little bit, but not very much, because there's not a lot of difference if you're moving your civilians either through automatic resettlement or through money. There's not a lot of difference between 5,000 population on 2 planets and 5,000 population on 1, except that your population is split between the 2. Your population growth will be split between the 2 planets, so neither planet will grow as fast, but both planets together will grow at about the same rate. That also depends on buildings and stuff, but I don't let myself fall behind on buildings for pop growth. I like to get them right away on planets, even sometimes before they start usually even before they start their specialization, because pop growth is king. Okay, we will need a little bit of money in order to get our monument. So we're going to want to sell half our food, half of our energy credits, and some of our consumer goods. And then we will buy as much as we can on minerals. We will then start with a monument so that our civilians can produce a little bit more unity for us. And with the remaining 100, we will queue the research station, and we'll queue the rest as we get some money in the bank. Other things, I guess. Because we are playing a technocracy, we start with a free scientist. It's roundabout, the logic of this, but usually your starting world starts with an officer as its governor, and that officer will always be your Minister of Defense. Your Minister of State. Because technocracy gives you tons and tons of bonuses for having researchers as governors, they start you with a research governor. But because this is a general planet and it's never going to be research specialized, this governor isn't really that good. So we just immediately put the the officer, not the official, not officer, the official in charge of the planet, and that frees up the guy who was here as a governor to be our second scientist, which means we can actually build our second science ship immediately because we don't have to pay for them. Right. Now we've sent the first explorer around to give a little lookout for our worlds, and we're gonna go here because we have to go down one of these corridors, either this one, or this one anyway. There's 2 here. And we might as well just pick the one that has the planet in it. It's for starting technologies. These I put off because I will not be building them until I can specialize the resource districts of my specialty research buildings. And since I don't need it, I don't take it. I'll take it closer to when it happens. Field modulation is good because it gets us closer to specializing lower districts. Administrative AI I put off because 5% research speed is good, but I can't always handle the upkeep early, so we'll put this off for a bit. And blue lasers is a fine choice. It's not like I wouldn't call it an A+ choice, but I would still say getting your early military ships able to deal with space threats, like not other empires, but just like groups of amoeba and stuff, can be very helpful early. We will be building our first fleet to our full naval cap and then holding our naval cap at 20 for a while, simply because that'll give us an influence boost that will be helpful for early expansion. And yeah, we'll take field modulation. Under society, planetary unification is always a good starting choice. Same problem with xenobiology as the previous one. Neither of these is very relevant at the beginning. Ground defense is good because of what it can lead to, because it can lead to unity from defensive jobs, I should say, defense armies. But of these 3, I'm going to take planetary unification. Oftentimes I would leave this if there was anything better, simply because we already have it forced. But we'll take it anyway because I didn't like any of those other choices. And for engineering, I oftentimes like to take something militaristic first. No nanomachines for the same reason. We're not going to use it anytime soon, so there's no point in putting the research into it when it's not going to be used for at least 15 years anyway. Which leaves us with Corvette hulls, which gives us hull points on Corvettes. We'll be using the Corvettes for quite a long time as our only ships, probably, just mathematically. And so this can be good. It's good if you take it at the beginning, but it's bad if you take it later. Same exact rule applies to standardized Corvette patterns. And coil guns, just like, it's a relatively neutral choice, just like the blue lasers. There's no good reason to take it early. I'm going to take the improved Corvette hulls because taking this sooner makes it more valuable. Although standardized Corvette patterns is cheaper, we'll get research, so it'll get research faster, and it's also good at the beginning. Because we're going to build a lot of Corvettes, and having this when we start building them saves us more money on them. So we'll take the standardized Corvette hulls first. Looking at our starting research, you're going to see what the environmentalist does to us, and that is it's literally doubling our society research output, which is cool. One last thing before we go into a little bit of a deep dive on our civics, more than we already have. Actually, you know, we should just do that deep dive now, because what I want to do is part of that. We have two civics, of course, you know, normal Stellaris start. We have Technocracy. Now, Technocracy changes your politician jobs into science directors. Science directors exchange a portion of their unity for research. It's not all of it. The wiki still says it's all of it, but it's definitely not all of it. They still have some unity that comes from them. It also gives every scientist an expertise trait like this, and these expertise traits are improved. They don't just give you the usual research speed for that type when you're a counselor. They also give you research from jobs for their category when you are working as a governor, which is another way, which is basically the primary way that technocrat governors are superior to regular scientist governors. They have a job that gives you the job, the government position, I don't know why I'm calling it a job. The government position, the counselor, gives you down on research upkeep, so it can be really good. It's probably the one that we'll take right away. And it gives you one free research alternative, which just makes the every research alternative basically makes your science more deterministic. It's much more likely that you're going to see things you actually need instead of trash that you have to quickly put aside the more of these you get. So that's good. As I mentioned before, one of the side effects of Technocracy that isn't really mentioned in the description is that you get a free scientist at the start. And another benefit, well, another science-related benefit that we should talk about too, I will talk about that in a second. The other civic is Environmentalist. Environmentalist gives us Ranger Lodges. Gives us a job that drops consumer good upkeep for, well, it drops consumer good upkeep for everybody, which is amazingly useful for us. It's really going to help us with the thing we're going to do next. And it can also drop amenity usage, which isn't as valuable in this version because of how powerful luxury housing is. But still, could be interesting. Probably won't ever take that counselor position. Let's look at what the ranger jobs actually do so we can have an idea of why it is we specialize our planets the way we do for research. Every single ranger every single biologist we get, whether it comes from a regular source or the Ranger Lodge itself, turns into a ranger. Rangers produce, of course, biology research, but they also produce more resources based on your blockers. Any natural blocker that you keep will have a little description in it added to it that will say, like this one does, food per 100 rangers, 0.5. So we get one food because of these two, 0.5 here, 0.5 here, for each ranger. That's in addition to whatever else the ranger would normally give us. Each one of these blockers also just gives us a flat 2 extra unity, and of course those require us to keep it. If we have unnatural blockers like the sprawling slums, they give us nothing. We can also build a special kind of blocker. Usually you get one when you put your ranger district down, which takes up 1 district and replaces it with 2 unity. So that's what this is, a nature preserve. On planets where we do research, we want to keep a reasonable amount of blockers around. because that's where our biologists and rangers will be. And other planets where there are no rangers, there's no point in not clearing them all and using every district. It's also worthwhile clearing these sometimes if they're not good, but the unity can just be helpful in general. So that's what it's doing for us. Because this building itself provides 400 ranger jobs, which is a ton of extra biologists, that's why we have so much extra biology research than we do any other kind of research compared to a normal game start. Although I think in a normal game start, this building would have been replaced with a regular research lab. And so I don't remember if regular game starts start with 2 research labs. And I should, because I played this game a lot recently, but I don't remember. You know what? I'm pretty sure it's only 1 research lab. Either way, we have this. It's better. It gives us more jobs even than another research lab was, because another research lab would give us 180 jobs, and this gives us 400. And yeah, that's what our civics do. Now let's take a second and look at our ethics. Because we are materialist, we have access to the scientific living standard, which is academic privilege. We will absolutely use it. We'll use it right from the start. We want to use it from the start because we want to be balancing our economy around its existence from the very first day. Some other things that are worth noting: government edicts. We start with an economic policy of militarized. It's good to keep that in mind for the Vor, because there will come a point in time where you'll probably want to turn this off once you have a proper amount of alloys being produced. But basically, at the beginning, this is what's keeping us in the green for alloys, because we really do not make enough alloys. Hey, information quarantine is a good edict, and we will probably use it. That 5 stability can make a big difference at the beginning. And I think we unpause now. I'll mostly be running it fast because I don't want the game to get out of my hands. Like, I want to be able to control what's happening at all times. Once this is built, we will try to buy enough, what? That is unexpected, getting an automatic first contact without even getting to explore. That is because these are the fanatic xenophile Fallen Empire. They've got to be super close to us. We saw them on our first jump. Where are they? Oh, that's 2 jumps away. Look, nope, that's 1 jump away. This will be inside because you can see the border is straight here, right? It would turn in, and we'd see the border if it didn't take this. So they have this too. Well, there's one good thing that does. That turns this into a dead end. And of the people to have as your neighbor, I mean, xenophiles are likely to cause us no problems, right? So that's cool. That's an interesting little start condition. All right. Let's keep going. Here's our new science ship, which we built right away. We're going to put our former governor on it. For scientists, I said before, we want to have 2 explorers, 1 scholar. I think of them that way. I may not make any explorers, as in I may not take the specialist explorer job on my explorers, because eventually they're going to have to retire and become governors if the game goes well, and so it would just be a waste to make them explorers. That being said, if we get to specialization while there's still tons of exploring to do, I may just make them explorers anyway. Or I might just forget, because sometimes I just forget that they should be governors and not explorers. And making them explorers can really help if there's still tons of explorers to do. That has to be admitted. Let's and we'll sell 100 of these too, so we can maybe... Not enough. I can sell 100 more food as well. That should be enough so that we can just get this guy to automate those last 2 mining stations. So far, we still haven't seen our planets, which is interesting. Right? We have literal dark matter in our very first black hole. I'm going to call that the lucky dark matter. Find it super interesting that our scientifically minded people have discovered the secret of dark matter, at least that it literally physically exists within minutes of coming into space, or should I say days. Pretty cool. It's starting to look like we might just have to expand our military scouting fleet's search area. This is a dead end. This might... Nah, I don't know. There's no way to know. So we'll find out in a few jumps. We have the Ute. That's okay. I mean, they're not great, but we don't really need precursors to play a good game, so... The Ute aren't the worst either.
Construction online.
Okay, our first tradition. As I said, we're going to go Discovery because it's most relevant if you do it early.
Council
and we want, as the Vor, of course, being so research and scientist-based, we want to have jobs for our scientists. We want them to actually be optimally used, and we want them to be able to explore efficiently and well, which makes Discovery a 100% correct choice, I think, for the Vor, if we're trying to RP them. We'll take Map the Stars right away. Again, survey speed, better early in the game, worse later. So the sooner you click on this, the more you get out of it. We'll also, as I said, take information quarantine just to get that 5 points of stability on all planets. Eventually, we'll take Fortify the Border too, but it's no reason to now when we're not building stations yet. It's
anomaly detected.
A meaningless thing to do at this point. You have done the black hole, so I guess I'll get you to survey this system. There's one. We got Scout, which is useful, and one of our planets is literally right next. Nope, that's a continental world. So we have found none of our planets yet, which is awkward. Because that is really going to waste the time of our starting ship here. He's not going to be able to start good exploration yet. He's going to be searching for planets, but that's okay. He'll be fine. This continental world probably won't be useful until we can terraform it, which is going to be a long way off. I mean, unless we get somebody that we can migrate or like conquered to settle it. There's one of them. Nope, that's a desert world. What is happening? What is happening? Look, so this is a dead end. This is really like an interesting little bit of space here, and then there's all this, which is a mess. Okay, this mess is probably going to reconnect someplace over here, I'm guessing. You're done. I guess you should do this. We got a lot of their space has been revealed to us. A lot of the hyperjumps that they're aware of.
Council agenda ready.
We will take away... We'll finish Infinite Opportunities and replace it with Chart the Unknown. Same reason as with Map the Stars. Sooner you get the survey speed going, the better off it is, and that works doubly so for anomaly discovery, because of course you need to survey planets to find systems to define discoveries. So taking discovery anomaly later in the game is basically useless. Also take the survey speed here again. But in addition, after this, we're going to start doing this side, because this is probably the strongest one for us here. And we won't be putting research subsidies on anytime soon, so there's no point in chasing data uplinks, because we won't be able to afford it. So there we go. Boldly Go is done. That should get us some real fast exploration, which is good. Who is this? This is our chief scientific officer. They can take Spark of Genius 2. Trying to think of... this is one of our worlds, finally? Yes, this is an Arctic world. That tells us that our first starbase needs to be there. This is a size 17. That's pretty good. It's being scanned right now. It doesn't have a lot of mining districts, but it does have some. So this would be passable as an alloy world, probably. Hopefully this will instead be our research world, and the other planet we find will be better. We found... Okay, this is the continental world we've already looked at, right? Archaeological site. Interesting. This is ancient facility. Cool. Who just leveled? This is our head of research, Perak Va. He currently is a bit of an explorer. He'll continue meticulous and continue to be an explorer. We're going to pick our traits to try to focus them on the things we need, the 3 things we need in space.
New technology discovered.
Okay, let's grab Research Division. That means that we can now afford to buy another science ship. Let's look at our leaders here and just see if anybody seems useful. This guy is useful because the extra life can be valuable. He's not terrible. Neither of them is specifically good, but neither of them is... Well, I mean, the second guy I don't want, just because I don't want the early negative trait. But this guy could be good. Or I could wait 5 years for the... Or I should say 3-ish years for the refresh. I mean, I don't really need it right now. But... Also, the sooner we do it, the easier it is to get this done, especially since we're going to have 3 different pathways to go down. That's a lot of exploration. This is a very confined little area, too. I am finding our like, structure around us to be very interesting. Looks like maybe it might loop over the top and connect. That could be interesting. I am wondering if we're going to end up being wrapped around these guys. Well, let's just continue. There's no point in waiting. So our first technology is, of course, planetary unification, as we would expect, since we're so much better at biology. Or should I say sociology. So of these 5, I don't like missing off-world trading companies, because it's going to get you really a lot of use into it, but we can't really validate skipping pop growth. Pop growth is king, so...
Detected.
I'm guessing that our second planet is this one. Truth be told, it could be either of these 2 or even one of these 3, because they can be up to 3 jumps. It's usually 2, but it can be up to 3. To be fair, I don't actually know that that's true. I've heard lots of people say it, but I don't think I've ever seen a 3 that I can remember. Although, maybe this is the one. Maybe it's going to be 3 jumps this time. This is our Minister of State. I'm going to take Charismatic. I mean, Trade Focused is good, but I feel like Charismatic might be better for us. We are going to eventually want to try to pay for research subsidies.
Construction online.
Right? Build these stations. And let's look at the capital. Right now, I feel like we could use a better balance on consumer goods. The best way to do that when we're early game is civilian industries, because the number of guys that we get out of building a district isn't very good. It's only like 50. We do have to be careful about housing, though. Why don't we build luxury housing? And then, since luxury housing takes no jobs, we can build civilian industries right afterwards. I think that's a valid choice that doesn't overpressure our civilians. Send you here. Actually, don't want to do that. We want to send you down the pathway that leads to choke points. And since this is a dead end, that's this path. There it is. There's our other Arctic world. Wait, that is 3 away. I'm bad at counting. Our first choke in this direction is here. I'm going to immediately take this guy. I'm going to remove the original pathway, and we're going to send him to basically look at... You know, we should do it probably like this. We're going to look at every star inside this cluster. Then we're going to pop up here and get a good look up there.
Charted.
I really want to find out early if that's connected. This is our Minister of Defense. He's our Admiral. He could be a Champion of the People, which would be really useful. Fleet Organizer is more useful late game than it is early game. Skirmisher. Skirmisher is just good if he's going to actually end up doing any fighting. And the other thing is, he's already a Champion of the People, so holding this to level later is a valid choice. So let's take him and make him a Skirmisher. We have kind of an awkward area of space, but we got tons of worlds around us, which is really nice. We probably don't want to explore too huge an area. It would be a little bit wasteful, though, to not explore a lot. We'll have to decide. I don't want to be really wide, but I also don't want to be too small.
Anomaly
Discovery is really
detected.
best for medium and large-size empires. Okay, who's this? This is one of our 2 exploring scientists. This is the first person we've seen roamer on. I think Meticulous is technically superior to roamer because anomaly discovery chance is harder to get. And you end up getting less of it. Let's grab recruitable leaders per class. I never bought that other science ship. You're finished. You don't need to go down, so you can... Whoops. Instead, you can head up. For now, I think you're gonna come this way, because I want to see what's going on down this path, where our choke point over here should be, based on what mess is going on up here. We don't want more than 4 choke points. There is a good chance that all of this is going to connect. If all of this connects, that could make the choke point on the top much easier. Just looking at this, we can see we have a path going down here into the arm, and then this arc up here, which means this could be a valid choke point. I am going to, since we are eventually going to need to get to 20 ships to get maximum influence, I'm going to copy this fleet and reinforce it with our current amount of alloys. And then I'm going to give a leader to that fleet temporarily and send them to explore one of the other pathways.
New technology
This is
discovered.
a continental world. We have a lot of continental worlds. That's kind of interesting and useful. Here is our global energy management for the specialization. Getting this done right away is a really good boon. I don't think anything here is amazing enough that I could choose anything other than getting the specialization for energy districts, so we'll take that. Construction ship is finished. They will claim our first world. And I never really did give a good look at our other Arctic world. It's a 15. And there's nobody in there anymore, which means I can't look at its, I forgot to look at its districts. We can see them in Expansion Planner. No, we can't. I always think you can, but no, you can only see things that you can currently see in your sensors in Expansion Planner. Plant ship here. Let's buy this guy. Thank you for joining. I could have waited till after we got... I just realized I should have waited till after the one that gives them an extra level. Because we got that, but it's not refreshed. Since it's not refreshed, he doesn't count. He stays what he was. Let's get you to come up this way. Like this. So we have an interesting little starting position. So far, the only aliens we've found are the precursors. I mean, obviously, that's not going to be the only aliens we can find. The worst case scenario for us, I believe, would be if there's somebody here. If we have somebody up here, it would suck. So I'm immediately going to just check that because I want to know. We will do test for planets on the way over. Extra jumps with your exploring. Oh, you won't go that way. Fine, let's do this again. It's fine. It's fine.
Online.
And this is over our own system, which means it can't be an actual empire. Probably independence, some sort, because it appeared here first. With that, though, I think we're going to bring this first episode to an end. It's been about 50 minutes of straight recording. I think that's enough per episode. Thanks for watching, and I hope you join me next time, where we continue to play our Vor and try to take over the galaxy.
Anomaly detected.
Bye for now.